Do we have a roll call on here?
Ruth Arcan,
Yeah.
Dan Ruck. He's up there, but
He's there.
He's on mute.
Jeremy Hall,
Here.
Jay Luke,
Here.
and Keith Karpinski looks to be absent.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not all's in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Make a motion on the minutes to approve the minutes as read. Look good to me.
Second. Any discussion on the minutes? Not all's in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comments? We're aware of. All right, are there any supervisors not seated as committee members that have any information for this committee?
I'm waiting to get the information.
All right, that'll bring us to discussion and possible action on resolution 5424.
Number 7, right?
Resolution amending a resolution.
Right.
Who's got that?
I can start out on that one. There's been a lot of questions on the special charge for recycling and how that's gonna be applied to the properties with the $35 fee and how that works. Currently, right now, the intent is to charge the fee on properties coded in the tax roll as G1, G2, and G3, which have improvements. G7 is exempt with that. Some of the questions that have come up out of that is, what if I have my chicken coop on another land? Another parcel, did some background checking on this, on some of the larger farms. Some of the larger farms will have one charge as they just have their house as a residential property. And everything else is an Ag 4 or G4, which is agricultural, which is exempt, but any improvement on those parcels that have like a barn, a dryer and all that are coded under G7, which is exempt from that. So if a farm has all their land in Ag 4 with just their improvements in Ag 7, they won't get charged any fee on these ones. The other one that came up was, what if I have a house that is splitting the lot lines of 2 lots, 2 parcels? I'm told that it'll go along the lines of this taxes. It's all put on one parcel. The improvement is put on one parcel, so there'll be one charge because one lot will be vacant. The other question was brought up, the discrepancy of what if we have a lot that has 10 rental units on it, a parcel that has 10 rental units on it. That one will be charged one fee. It goes off the parcel. We have no database nor way of doing it by unit or cost on if there's 10 units, 3 units, or 4 units on one parcel. We do not have that data nor a mechanism to do that. Also, we have the question was asked, can we run, or can we do it by property owner? So if you own 3 parcels, independent parcels with improvements, can we do it by owner and charge one fee? The question is yes. Would it be automatic? No. We need to run a report, dissect that information, and then put it in a spreadsheet, then upload it into the tax database for that. So that is doable. It'll just take a little work by staff to get that in there. The resolution was amended with the 5424 as all these questions came up. There was a technical error listed in the first resolution that passed, where it said 2025 tax bills. It was intended to say 2024 tax property. So we got that at the end of the year. The other part of this was, in talking to Chair Luke on this, was that all these questions on there, and I've got to email into Amanda to see if we can run a report to see how this affects properties. Her initial conversation with myself was that we can't tell that until we put everything into the system and we get all the tax information from the towns and the villages and the schools, and then run it in the system. So this resolution basically puts the resolution and special charge as a pilot program for the first year so that we could get the information and then adjust as we need to do that on there. And that was the intent of this resolution, to amend the resolution with a special charge to put it as a pilot program for the first year. And then after the first year, we can adjust with a new resolution moving forward with how the special charge would be done. If that makes sense.
And so essentially, the original resolution that was passed was in perpetuity. The fee would have continued if the board had taken no additional action. It just would have renewed every single year. What this change to basically 2 words does is it says the recycling fee is actually only for 1 year, so that the board next year, if they want to continue it, can take it up again, have meetings on how it was applied, have meetings on what went right, what went wrong, and then pass another resolution to potentially have it move forward in perpetuity or decide not to do it. So it gives the board the opportunity to assess and reevaluate and make a decision again next year, if that makes sense.
I didn't think you could do anything to a resolution that so changed it wouldn't even be the same resolution anymore.
So you can't amend on the record because this is noticed, because people have an opportunity to come and give their opinion on it, and they will again have it, it'll be noticed on the county board, and they will again have an opportunity to do it. The issue with doing what you're proposing, an
That
amendment,
night.
right, you can't do it that night because it would violate the open meetings law. And so, because this is in compliance with open meetings, it is an okay thing to do.
I don't see how this resolution corrects the notice of the G1, G2, G3, and G7 issues.
And so it doesn't. So what this resolution does, what I would say is there's no necessarily indication that there's a problem with how it's going to apply to those particular properties. Administrator Norby went over what the expected application is of the original resolution, more or less to advise on what the expected outcome is of the resolution as passed previously. All this resolution addresses is, one, it fixes the clerical error of 2025 versus 2024. And 2, it makes it a pilot program for 1 year as opposed to making it in perpetuity. So you're correct that it does not address the clarification of what properties it is going to apply to.
You don't think that's an issue, that we don't address those?
So I can't opine on whether or not that's an issue. That's a policy decision that the board has to make, whether or not the board wants to get into the minutia of saying exactly what properties it's going to apply to, or as the resolution as it's drafted essentially provides that the treasurer will certify the properties that it will apply to. My interpretation of that resolution is that essentially that grants to the treasurer the authority to implement the resolution in the way that she believes the board intended it to apply. And again, that's why I believe this resolution is being brought forward to see how that implementation gets put into place, and then ultimately have a chance to correct it or get into the minutia later. But nothing stops anyone from trying to get into the minutia of it. But ultimately, from my my opinion would be that the treasurer would have the ability to go and determine what properties are to be taxed based upon that previous resolution. Sorry, not taxed, special charged.
Special charge.
So what if it fails?
The amendment?
Well, yeah, this resolution, what if it fails? Then it just goes back to what it was?
If this resolution fails, it stays what it was. So essentially, nothing changes. What I think we would still be able to do, because it would be noticed that there is a clerical error, I think we could still correct the clerical error in the original resolution, have it apply to the 2024 property tax. However, if this amendment fails, basically that original language, the beginning with the 2025 property tax bill, then the resolution is in perpetuity until it gets modified at some point next year.
So really, if this doesn't pass, we won't be able to collect it in 2025. It's gonna be 2026.
No, so if this doesn't pass, what would happen is we would discuss at the county board meeting the fact that there is a clerical error. Because the intent of the board was that it be applied to this year's tax bill. Even though we used the number 2025, all of the discussion related to the tax bill and the fact that it was included in the budget and it was talked about and considered in the budget, and the money that is going to come in is used in the budget. Because of that, it's evident that that number is simply just a mistake. It's not a change in the intent to then go, it's called a scrivener's error. You just go and acknowledge that it's there, make sure everyone is aware that it's there, make sure that the intent was in fact that it was 2024, and then just change it. So even if this fails, it will still apply to the 2024 property tax bill.
Any
Can I
thoughts,
ask you a
Jay?
question, Russ?
I don't know if we have 2 hours not
Oh,
for this meeting. But if you have a brief one. we
A
can
brief
take it.
I just want to know, can this resolution be amended to add that G1, 2, 3, 7, so people know how that's working? The biggest thing, people don't know how they're gonna get charged.
So
I
the
think that's the biggest problem out there right now, is everybody has, because now you said if it's by owner, there's owners that own 30 rental units. They only pay for one then.
If it's on one
I mean,
parcel, yes.
So they only pay one, but they have 30 rental units. How is that fair? I mean, so there's some things that really come up in that. So I'm wondering if there's a way to show how that works,
So to Russ's,
how the finance part works, how it would be charged. And then giving it all to one person, the treasurer. I don't know if that's right either, but that's just my 2 cents.
to Russ's point, talking about amending a resolution, the problem with getting into that much depth and clarifying on this particular resolution is that you're going to run into the open meetings violation problem. If you change it to such an extent that it substantively is different than the resolution as presented, you're gonna have to renotice that resolution and have it reheard. It would be beyond the scope of this resolution. Therefore, people wouldn't know that that is necessarily going to be addressed, and they wouldn't have an opportunity to show up to this meeting or any other meeting that it is being considered at and give their opinion on it. So while generally that sort of amendment could be made to a resolution, in this particular circumstance, because that I believe would be so substantive, it would be substantially different than the resolution as proposed.
Can I make a comment on that? Also, the purpose of this resolution is to resolve those type of problems and see what happens a year from now. and readdress the scenario. If we were talking about a specific situation about 30 units being only charged $30 and the neighbor lives in a house by himself and two kids, or whatever, he just charged $35 also. And much, obviously, the recycling use would be considerably different. However, that's one of the potentially many different discrepancies that we're going to dig out with the result of this resolution and modify it to be more equal and stuff in a year from now and not let it run into perpetuity. And but we start, like the counselor says, if we start changing it now, we would sit in more than a couple of hours trying to analyze or hypothetically any scenario that you could think of in your mind that might exist. We'll find out in 12 months, hopefully.
Yeah, many of the scenarios, we'd never have the data to even answer the question, as we don't know who rents a room out to someone else in their home. Some properties that have two codes, like a G1 residential and a G2 commercial, it's one parcel, they'd get one charge. The example would be if someone runs a salon out of their residence, they'd have two codes on there, but they'd have one charge for the parcel on those. So that's where all the scenarios that you could think of on there versus apartment complexes versus trailer homes versus all these. Many of those, we just don't have the data. Our research and our homework on trying to draft a resolution, how other counties implemented these fees across Wisconsin, has always come down to the parcel.
All right, well, our job isn't to fix it or to vote on it here. Ours is to get it to county board.
I make a motion that we go to the county board with this resolution with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion? Dan, I kind of forgot you were there. We didn't really give you a chance to chime in if you had something.
I had my mic open. I just was waiting for the right opportunity, and I'm good at this point.
All right. Anybody else want to comment or put it to a vote? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Aye.
We're gonna say it carries. All right, what's our action regarding budget amendment recommendation?
Mr. Chair, this item was on all committees before this committee, just in case there was technical amendments came through from other committees to add to the budget. Subsequently, there was not anything additional going to the budget.
All right, so you're wondering if there's anything from this committee?
Correct.
Budget amendment recommendations? Finding that it's much easier to do it at this level than at county board that night?
Correct. So we don't have surprises at the county board.
Well, I'm sure we'll have some surprises. Anybody have any? Dan?
I'm good
Oh.
here.
All right, we're gonna move on and solution 5024.
Start with that. Yeah, you can start, Don.
So, big picture, the board in October passed an initial resolution authorizing us to secure debt financing for 2025. And this, in your packet, you have an initial draft of the resolution to actually borrow some of the money. I'm gonna explain what I just handed out. And Dan, I apologize. We can send you one. Our advisors at PMA are suggesting that we break the total loan amount, which is $2,250,000 into two different tranches. The reason to do that is to preserve levy capacity. It's a very technical kind of argument, but if we can schedule a debt payment in 2025 now, we don't lose the debt capacity that we would have lost because our debt balance has been going down. We haven't borrowed money in a while, and each year when we pay off debt, we lose the ability to levy for that amount that our borrowing, our repayment has occurred for. So our advisors said, hey, you can keep that levy consistent if you borrow some money this year, and all you have to do is schedule the payment. It's not going to change the total amount we're borrowing. We're just breaking it into two pieces for this technical issue. On top of that, the resolution to do that you have in your packet was drafted by us based on the resolution that you passed a couple of years ago when you borrowed the money for this building. Our bond counsel, external counsel that works with our team here, has basically said, well, things have changed a little bit and we're giving you new text to put in. Nothing has changed in terms of the term of the loan, still $235,000. The repayment will occur on February 1st of 2025. The interest payment is something like $2,300. None of that changes substantively. So counsel, our corporation counsel here said there's no problem with you conceptually in your mind copy and pasting this into the resolution that you've got in your packet. This is just new verbiage from our attorney. The big picture is, do we want to do this? Do we want to break this borrowing into two tranches so we can preserve our levy capacity for 2025? I believe we do want to do that. I think the administrator has been clear all along that that's been the intent of the budget. And we just have this sort of, because we're close to the end of the year, we're not going to be able to get the big 2.250 million through with a scheduled payment for 2025. There's a couple of reasons we can't do that. One is just timing. The other is we don't actually want to borrow that money right now because we're not going to spend it till later in 2025. So we're going to pay a little interest expense to borrow this money right now, a couple $1,000, but we're saving a lot of interest expense by delaying the big borrow until a little later next year. Extremely complicated and technical. I'm hearing from our corporation counsel, there's no reason why we can't just slide this text into what you have in your packet. But the decision is, are you willing to break this borrowing into two tranches so we can preserve that levy limit?
And what that does is stabilize our levy. And on the bright side, it allows us to buy our squads for law enforcement early versus waiting for the other loan to come through. So it's just the mechanism of still keeping within that $2.2 million and stabilizing the levy to keep with our advisors for financial moving forward. So this small loan up front, the remainder of it in 2025, just keep our levy flat without having a drop in the levy.
If I could add to that, I appreciate you mentioning that, Mo, because there's a possibility we're going to want to do this for any capital purchases that we do year to year where we don't want to be paying for 10 years. So we're going to buy these squads. Squads have a useful life of, Don Burrows isn't here, but I'm going to say 3 years, 4 years. We don't want to be borrowing money for squads and then paying on them for 7 years after their useful life. So this mechanism we may use year to year for capital purchases that have relatively short lifespans. Don't mean to complicate things, but this gives us some practice in that regard.
Probably the cleanest thing to do, I think, would be if someone on the committee wanted to move to amend the resolution as presented in the agenda to incorporate the language in the resolution as handed out. What that would then do is eliminate any question about whether or not which resolution's applying and which one's the appropriate one to do. So if a motion was raised to amend the language in the resolution as presented in the agenda to instead incorporate the language in the resolution as handed out, basically all of the substance of the resolution is exactly the same, so it wouldn't change really anything other than the language used to accomplish the same goal. So it would, again, still comply with open meetings law and would have the new language as opposed to the old language, and then there wouldn't be any question about what's being considered, if that makes sense to everyone.
If we do this now, when do you expect to draw the other
Yeah,
$2.2 million, let's say?
2,015,000, if I remember right. Yeah, we would expect to draw that as late as September of 2025. That's still in negotiation with, well, we're still in discussion on that point with PMA, the financial advisors, and there's moving parts that we currently aren't in complete control of. There's a market that we're going to be applying to. But it could be as late as September 1st of 2025. I will also, as a way of sort of apologizing for the lateness of this, I got this at 8:09 this morning. We're trying to pack a lot in and getting some help from outside counsel, but this is literally hot off the press from Corals, which is the attorneys that we use for the bond counsel.
And typically our resolutions don't have 300 some plus lines. There's a lot of complication on that one.
So I guess I'm requesting that someone make a motion on the floor to accept the language as presented here in replacement of the language that is in the draft resolution in your packet.
Anyone have any interest in that?
Well, I think we should definitely do this. Dan was the one that, does he have any comment? Does he totally understand what we're talking about here without the advantage of having this in front of him? Is that right, Dan?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I understand it. I tried to get a little bit insight ahead of time when I saw it on the agenda, so I'm in pretty good shape. And I guess I would make the motion to amend the language of the resolution to incorporate this change.
Second.
All right, any more discussion? And this goes to the county board, correct?
Yes.
So Dan, are you just sending it with the recommendation at all?
Yes, sir. Sending it with the recommendation to approve.
And so just so it's clear for the clerk, it's a motion to amend the language to incorporate the language from the handout and subsequently send to the county board with recommendation. Is that my
Yeah,
understanding?
what he said.
Reference resolution 5024 in that. So it's the same one.
All right, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, how about resolution 5124? Adopting the budget.
This is our standard resolution for completing the budget for 2025 and setting the levy for 2025.
Anyone like to move on this one?
Well, I'll make a motion that we move 5124 to the county board with approval.
The recommendation. Hate to see the motion die for lack of a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We'll say it carries. All right, the administrator's update.
Well, Mr. Chair, short update I've been giving to committees, working right now. I'll have a couple appointments coming through for the county board as we set up the library committee. Library committee is set up every 5 years by the administrator to, that committee sets the 5-year plan for the, Library Federation, Polk County. Chairman, or excuse me, Supervisor Duncanson will chair that committee. The 8 members on that one. And then also I'll be appointing a general parks manager. This is a statutory position, for decision-making that, why the county hasn't had this before. It's never come up, but it's, not a promotion or monetary. It's just an adoption of that title, to make decisions statutorily underneath the administrative form of government. And other than that, thank you all for work on the budget and staff for their work on the budget and the directors. It's been a long push on getting all this together and we're almost at the end. That's what I have for a report.
All right, how's our work plan looking? Schedule?
Could I make a recommendation? I think we have just a date error in the work plan. We'll be at the WPPA negotiations in 2025. We just want to make sure the work plan reflects that.
We don't have a 2025 work plan at all in front of us, so.
I think it's possibly at the very bottom, and we can have the clerk note that.
Look at that.
The May, June, or July 26th should be 2025.
Yes. Is that correct then?
Way down at the bottom.
The May, June, July, should that be 2025 and not 2026?
Correct, sir?
All right, anybody have anything they'd like to get on our work plan? Well, and subject matters for our next meeting, December 11th. For our next meeting. We have something to do in December.
Ask, look at the bottom one, sitting red. Policy reviews.
Policy review.
It just says to schedule them, so that can potentially wait depending. I think we could wait to schedule later if there's nothing else on.
Will there be an employee handbook or?
Oh, employee handbook ready to get out or?
It went to the directors this week on its final, or draft 4. I think it's draft 4. The employee handbook, we hope to have that out by as we come in open enrollment with our new pay rules and the new system coming on board. So we're in our final stages of that one. Next year's heavy lift is going to be the financial policies coming forward for procurement and those, and looking at those numbers versus the statutes of what we have.
And will that be ready for the December meeting?
It should be. It'll be close.
I think we should put it on and
That'll be a,
where that go.
yeah, we'll put it on there and that'll be a goal. So you guys get it and we'll get it out to the employees at the same time.
All right, well, I mean, if it doesn't, we don't need to meet, just have a roll call. All right, anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
Thanks, Dan.
Does that
Thank
meet
you,
the-
guys.